Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present today, and also a big thank you to Singtel and Trustwave for allowing Aruba to be able to present and share with you what's happening in both the SD-WAN and cloud-based security arena and the changes and what's happening. First thing though, I want to say is that there is a lot of change happening in this industry at the moment. I mean, who would have thought that, we would all be working from home? Things are moving, they're very dynamic. And what's really important is that when you're looking for vendors and partners to be able to work with and collaborate for your IT solutions, that you look for vendors and partners that are flexible, dynamic, and can not only help you address the needs and problems you have today, but also more importantly, the needs and problems you have tomorrow. And really, Singtel is certainly one of those organizations that, from an Aruba point of view, we firmly believe have the skill set and knowledge and ability to be able to address and assist their customer base with challenges of today and the challenges of tomorrow. And I wanted to start the presentation though, not so much on security, but I just wanted to share some information with you that we've uncovered, which is some market data. And at the moment, there are two major areas of my presentation I'm going to cover. And the first is obviously software-defined wide area networking. And, we believe that market by 2024 is going to be worth about 382 million. It's a big market, it's growing and it's growing fast. But we also see customers, and not just ourselves, but Gartner, you can see the data here, they're looking at SASE, and I'm going to talk quite a bit about SASE through this presentation, and they're seeing that growth is about $10 million worth of growth by calendar year 24 as well. But what's most important here is the blue columns on the right, where from Frost & Sullivan. And there's clearly a shift in buying patterns happening and we're certainly seeing this across Asia Pacific and Japan, where we're seeing customers now no longer want to do it yourself. We're seeing more and more customers, particularly when it comes to their cloud-based security management and also their SD-WAN overlay, that they're looking to service providers to be able to help them provide that service and buy it as one single managed service from their service providers. And if you take a look on the last column on the right there, Frost & Sullivan here are basically saying roughly 85% of transactions they believe are going to be via service providers. So that's why for us, working with a service provider such as Singtel is incredibly important, because we're certainly seeing the buying patterns, the dynamic shift happening from our customers that are moving away from more and more wanting to implement themselves to now looking to organizations like Singtel to be able to provide a complete end-to-end service, their underlay transport with their overlay. So, I'm sure no surprise to anybody that there's a rapid change happening, which is applications are now rapidly moving to the cloud. But what's really important here is not just the general trend to the cloud, but it's the light blue rectangle on the right, where 60% of customers are adopting the cloud to improve their branch, the edge. We refer to the branch as the edge of the environment, and we're seeing customers more and more now look to the cloud to be able to address the needs and challenges that they're finding in the branch environment. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about today in my presentation is very, very much focused on the branch environment. It's focused on security from the branch environment and security from the edge. What's really, really important, and how the changing market and dynamics mean that organizations now really do need to think about the security at the edge. So, I'm sure when you're talking to colleagues and also to other vendors, when vendors ask you, what's your number one priority, you know, many customers' number one response is digital transformation, right? They're on a digital transformational journey. And what we're seeing more and more is that organizations are looking and they're modernizing their applications by moving their CRM from on-premise to salesforce.com. They're moving their HR systems to cloud-based providers such as Workday, etc., and Oracle. And we're seeing organizations also modernize their infrastructure. So what they're doing is that they're redesigning their storage, they're redesigning their physical servers, they're building a hybrid cloud environment, maybe with HP GreenLake, so that they can move their applications across from you know, the public cloud across to their own private data center and backwards and forwards. So they're redesigning their applications and they're redesigning their infrastructure so that you can migrate applications and be what we call cloud ready. Now, all of this is great, but time and time again, we see one limitation. There's one main area that gets forgotten about, and that area is specifically the wide area network. Advanced SD-WAN, how to design the wide area network to be able to be ready to move the applications backwards and forwards, and how to build and deploy cloud-based security platforms so that they take advantage of this new world, this new upgrade. So we believe that due to that, SASE is very, very much an important criteria in your transformational journey. So what we're really saying here is that focusing on the applications is critical, absolutely. Focusing on your infrastructure, both in the public cloud and also your own private cloud infrastructure, is equally critical. But don't forget the wide area network, and don't forget cloud-based security to be able to address that network. Only these three items together can enable you to be able to deliver a true digital transformation. Because if it takes too long and it's not secure to migrate applications from a private or hybrid to a public cloud environment, your digital transformation journey isn't really in place. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today is specifically around SASE and the importance of SD-WAN in enabling that, and also the importance of SD-WAN in being able to help you achieve your digital transformation journey. So let's go back in time though, right? And go back to the 90s and, you know, the era of the Spice Girls and MC Hammer and all sorts of other terrible music. So at that point in time, we saw customers' environments being deployed, which were very traditional in this environment. And the traditional environment that I'm referring to is that you have your corporate data center, and your corporate data center has all of the applications located in it. And then you have your branch environments. And what would happen was you would backhaul your applications from the branch environment to the corporate data center, and that's where they would reside. And in your corporate data center, the applications was all centrally managed. It was easy to protect, easy to support. But the challenge was, along came this thing called the public cloud. And now we have applications that are sitting off on the side, such as AWS, Azure, Oracle, all these applications sitting in the cloud. And because the network was designed for a branch office environment with, say, a single MPLS link going backwards and forwards to the data center, that worked well because all your applications were in the data center. But now we see more and more customers, as they look to the cloud, their connectivity to the cloud is also back through the data center. The problem with this environment is as follows. Firstly, it's a very slow model, because what's happening is you have your branch environment here, your application for Workday, for example, will go from the branch environment through your corporate data center or your hosted data center. You're paying for that MPLS link, and then you're paying for that traffic to go out to the public cloud as well. And that traffic, by the way, as it goes out to the public cloud, will go over the internet anyway. So having this dedicated MPLS link here doesn't necessarily, in all conditions, make sense. backhauling all of your applications through to your data center and then sending them out to the public cloud is a very slow and cumbersome way, particularly if you've got lots of proxy servers and firewalls and other security built into your data center. The performance improvement can be quite slow. And as a result of that, there are better ways to be able to manage these connections. In addition to that, you've got other users. So you've got users working from home and they're connecting in via VPN. And you've got users in the home office, right, that are either connecting via a dedicated link from the home or also via some form of VPN traffic back to the corporate data center. But having everything backhaul back to the data center and then break it out to the cloud is not a very optimized or astute way of being able to manage the traffic. And unfortunately, we see this a lot. And we see it because organizations have deployed back in the 90s, a very traditional environment, which is the branch with one router, a single or maybe dual MPLS links going back to the data center. And that environment was perfect when all your applications were sitting in the data center. But now they're not. Now they're all over the place. They're in different cloud hosted environments. They're on different cloud providers. Some are still sitting in your data center. Others are sitting elsewhere. So having this legacy model is not a model that's truly scalable today. Security now also becomes a challenge because once again, back in the day, then, as referred to, all of your applications were sitting in the data center and you had a branch office environment. You had a firewall sitting at that branch. You had a big firewall sitting in your data center, and you had a very secure MPLS link going backwards and forwards. And the reality of this environment is that having that link in place and that highly secure, that meant everyone could sleep well. You then, after all of the traffic was inspected and you knew it was secure, only then would you break it out to the public cloud. And as I mentioned earlier, the problem here is that you've got now more and more users accessing from more and more locations. So, the security perimeter that you're used to, this ability to be able to lock everything in a closed environment, it's diminishing, and it's diminishing fast. Because now, as I mentioned earlier, you've got all of these cloud-based applications that are sitting on the internet or in the cloud, and you've got multiple users accessing all of these applications from different devices. And by the way, if you're an Aruba customer, I'm sure you'll probably have a lot of intelligent Wi-Fi devices too. Not just necessarily got a physical user behind it, but just a device that traditionally was a dumb device, didn't have any network connectivity, that now has a Wi-Fi access point attached to it and is providing telemetry and data back. So we've got different devices, different people accessing from different locations, all connecting to applications now that are dispersed on multiple cloud providers. So it's very, very much now a case of the perimeter, this closed environment now no longer exists. And so the way security is transforming is becoming more and more a challenge for organizations to be able to manage. Here's a real world example that I want to talk about where, some of the IoT security challenges that are being faced. This diagram here is a real world example of a retailer. It was a US-based retailer. And what happened was they upgraded their cooling system, their air conditioning fans. And by upgrading the air conditioning fans, they went with an organization that had intelligent fans, meaning that they had Wi-Fi access points on all the fans. And that organization managed those fans through the cloud. And what happened was some hackers got into the fan via Wi-Fi, connected to the branch office, and instead of having that traffic go to the cloud provider, they rerouted their traffic to the corporate data center, and they stole from the fan literally stole all of the customer credit card data. Thousands and thousands of customers' credit card data was hacked, all via this IoT device. So from an Aruba point of view, we see the challenges with this. And what SD-WAN coupled with SASE and coupled with technologies such as ClearPass from Aruba give you is the ability to be able to monitor traffic and recognize if that traffic isn't going where it's meant to be going, call it out, quarantine it, and separate it. So in this particular case, in this diagram, the solution to this problem is if this retailer had Aruba Edge Connect SD-WAN, what would happen was that device, if it was meant to go to the cloud security, but because suddenly this device was talking directly to the corporate data center, ClearPass would have picked it up. ClearPass together with our SD-WAN solution would have recognized that, hey, hold on a second, this traffic is going over the wide area network, and this is traffic that should not be going to our corporate data center. It's traffic that should be going to the cloud provider. We have a problem. So these are now the challenges, like I mentioned earlier, when you talk about this environment here, where you've got all these different users accessing multiple applications from multiple devices, and a lot of the devices now are intelligent, they're smart, they're equipped. Particularly if you're working closely with Aruba, you'll find that a lot of the, we have a lot of technology which converts what is traditionally been an analog dumb device to a intelligent Wi-Fi device monitoring and transferring data and telemetry on what it's doing. So this is another real world example of the challenges that the wide area network bring and why the importance of SD-WAN coupled with the security vendors is particularly valuable. So let's talk about, a lot of the vendors that are in place at the moment from a security point of view. We have a lot of vendors that are what we refer to as born in the data center. These are vendors that come from an on-premise historical background. They traditional firewall vendors where they have a security firewall at the branch office and a security firewall at the data center. That's what they know with that 1990s legacy MPLS link, and that's how they know how to be secure. And now we've got this convergence of other security vendors because everyone's moving to the cloud. So we've got vendors such as Zscaler, Netskope, and Cloudflare. And these vendors are now bringing to us an entirely new mode of security, an ability to be able to monitor the traffic in the cloud, traffic that you were going to break out to the internet anyway, and monitor it. And also, they're experts in their field. So you now no longer have to worry about upgrading firewalls, making sure the latest patch is there. You're not having to go into your data center at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning because that's the only downtime you can get to apply the latest patches to your firewall or to your Linux. You now have that traffic potentially breaking out from the edge, from the branch environment, which I'll show you in a second, and routing it to organizations such as Zscaler and Netskope, who are experts who are monitoring 24/7 and really analyzing that traffic. And as I mentioned earlier, rather than backhauling it back to the data center, you can break that traffic out from the branch, route it directly to these vendors. And you can only do that if you've got a Singtel SD-WAN environment from Aruba. Our SD-WAN solution that Singtel is offering together with Zscaler and Netskope is the joint solution which can enable you to be able to break traffic out and route it. And we see ourselves as the ideal vendor to be able to bring all this together because we were born on the edge. The acquisition of Silverpeak came from the edge. Aruba, all of Aruba's technologies is designed for the edge. So the Aruba portfolio has the right solutions to be able to make and ensure that from the edge, you can put the right solutions in place. So let's talk a little bit about some of that. So what we call adaptive internet breakout. One of the value that SD-WAN, Singtel together with ourselves can give you is, as I mentioned earlier with that 1990s model, when you've got a single dedicated MPLS link with a router, your only option is to break the traffic out via all in one go. You send the traffic through your router and send it direct to the data center via firewalls. When you put an overlay on, such as the Aruba Edge Connect SD-WAN, you now have the ability to make some smart decisions from a security policy point of view. So we classify applications into 3 different scenarios. The first scenario is at the top, and as you can see here, SAP and Oracle are great examples of this. With SAP and Oracle, you may have a legacy application that is plugged into Oracle 9i, and you can only run that in your data center. You can't, it's highly customized, highly proprietary. So for that reason, what you may want to do is use the Aruba Edge Connect device and say, right, this traffic, I'm going to route this over my dedicated MPLS link. It's going to get vetted by my on-premise firewall that is sitting in my corporate data center. And I know that traffic is highly customized. I'm never going to move it to the cloud because it's so customized that I'm going to route that traffic and send it directly over. But now I'm going to say, you know what, hold on a second. I've got these cloud hosted security applications, Google, Facebook, Workday, Dropbox. So I'm going to break this traffic out. It's going to go out to the internet anyway, right? So I'm not going to backhaul it to my data center. I'm just going to break it out from my branch, and I'm going to send it direct to Facebook, Workday, Dropbox, or Salesforce. But hold on. Now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, I know my call center team are using Salesforce for chats. They're also, some of them are using LinkedIn and Facebook, and they're using the chat features in them to communicate. They're sending files, they're doing all sorts of things with them. So it's all work related. Now, because it's work related, I want to make sure that that traffic is clean and clear and that the files they're sending are not corrupted. I want to know what's going on. So it's going to go out to the internet anyway. It's going to go to broadband anyway because it'll go over the internet. So I'm going to break that traffic out, and I'm now going to send it to Netscope or Zscaler. And I'm going to ask Netscope or Zscaler to inspect that traffic, to take a good look at it in the cloud, because you know what? That's what they do. They're 24/7, they're up all the time, and then they can break it out after they've inspected it and send it to Workday, or send it to Facebook, or send it to Salesforce. And then they can set the policies in place that when that traffic comes back, it gets re-inspected before it comes back to the branch office. And then over here in the light blue, we have direct internet breakout. So there might be some applications where you feel that those applications are incredibly secure and you don't need to have them inspected. Generally, what we're seeing here, Microsoft's best practice for Office 365 is actually to break it out and send it directly to them via their point of presence. But we're seeing more and more customers going, you know what, that's nice, Microsoft, you believe in your technology well enough, but I'm just going to send it to Netscope or Zscaler and have a check anyway, because I just want to make sure, right? So now though, what's really valuable here for you with a joint SASE, SASE stands for Secure Access Service Edge, with a joint SASE environment, cloud hosted security vendors, and an Aruba SD-WAN via Singtel, you can now get really granular with the security policy of each application and route that application based on the security requirements of that application. This you can't do with a traditional network, traditional router, firewall, MPLS link, applications in the data center backhauled. You can only do this with SD-WAN together with security. So now all of a sudden your policies, and we call a lot of this what we call referred to as business first, right? The ability to be able to make decisions. So now we've got a far greater environment, far more flexible environment, because now I've got my branch here. And you know what? I'm not going to backhaul those applications to the data center. I'm going to take that branch and I'm going to route them directly to my cloud-based security provider. My mobile users are down here. My home office users are here. You know what? They're just connecting straight to the broadband. They're not connecting to VPN anymore. So I'm just going to route them all their traffic, and I'm going to get Zscaler or Netskope to check it out and make sure it's okay. But this traffic here in the branch, that might be for, you know, the Oracle 9i. So I'm going to break that traffic out, and I'm going to send that back to my data center. I don't need to send that traffic to a cloud-based security provider because it's not going out to the cloud. It's going direct from the branch to my data center, and it's going over a dedicated MPLS link because that application is still sitting in my headquarters data center. So now I have this ability to have this highly customized environment where not only am I routing traffic based on security protocols, I can also choose what transport I want. I can decide, do I want to route that traffic over MPLS? Singtel's offering me a pretty good price on broadband at the moment. You know what? I might decide to route some of my traffic over broadband and less on MPLS. Or, you know, now I've got SD-WAN in place, I may want a redundant, I might have a redundant MPLS link here too, because this is a highly important application that I'm routing back to the data center. You know what? I'm going to have 2 MPLS links and I'm going to use them equally. I'm going to halve the size of them and I'll put a second one in and I'll route traffic over both. Or I might decide, you know what, I'm going to route the traffic over direct, or I might decide that I'm going to route the traffic here over both an MPLS and broadband link, and I'm going to see which packets get there first, and I'll take whichever packet gets there first. So these are the multiple options that you can do. It also opens the door for you to be able to customize your underlay far better with Singtel. You can start to take advantage of a lot more of their traffic, their product. And if you've got sites, for example, that are international and that country's MPLS links at the last mile are not that great, they're very poor performing, you know, you may decide to work with Singtel and break that traffic out and put it over LTE, right? These are options now that are available for you because once you've got an SD-WAN in place, you can start to make decisions based on the application tier, make security decisions, make transport decisions, make priority decisions. Your world suddenly becomes far more flexible because you can customize your solutions based on what you want, and you can work with the likes of Zscaler and Netskope. Now, from a Aruba SD-WAN point of view, we work very, very closely. I keep mentioning Zscaler and Netskope, not because they're also exhibiting at the same event, but actually the two of them are working very closely with us. We have joint APIs in place where you can actually access their applications, their tools via our login. And so there's a lot of joint technology collaboration that is going on, and also just marketing and relationship, and of course, you know, Singtel bringing it all together as a service provider. It's a win-win strategy. So I think, you know, in the interest of time, I wanted to just mention finally that the big shift we're seeing in the industry is it's now all about the edge. And if you think about it, in the old days, the data center was king, right? Everything resolved around the data center. The data, it's where you had your database. So the data, as far as applications are concerned, the database was king and the data center was king. But now with the cloud and this dispersed environment, dispersed at the application tier with applications now spread in multiple locations, dispersed with users now spread in multiple locations, it's now no longer about this central data center. It's about the edge. The edge and everything about the edge is what's most important. And so looking for technologies that enable you to be able to adapt and respond to this ever-changing edge environment, that's where you need transformational technologies such as the Aruba SD-WAN, EdgeConnect SD-WAN, and technologies from Netskope and Zscaler. Final point I want to say is that we have a complementary SASE white paper. So SASE, once again, was what Gartner termed as Secure Access Service Edge, and it's all about how to secure your edge environment and how to bring it all together, leveraging technologies such as SD-WAN so that you can ensure that you have a secure environment in place. So with that, I think I'm right on time, and I just want to say thank you again to Singtel and Trustwave for the opportunity to be able to talk today. And you know, any questions or anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Aruba team. And I really do encourage you to take a look at how our SD-WAN orchestrator connects into both Netscope and Zscaler and how seamless it is. It's pretty awesome. So thank you.